Hey guys, what is up? My name is PandaMaster, and welcome to my spoiler-free review of episode 4 of Superman and Lois. That's right, I'm here. It's been over a week since this came out, but I feel like I'm in the realm of, talking about it. I think better than last week's, maybe. I don't know, but yeah, let's talk about it. I will have the episode 5 review up next week, which is fine because, for those that don't know, Superman and Lois is going on a hiatus. I don't think they've said anything about when it will come back. Hold on, let me see here. Yeah, so it doesn't seem like it. The 6th season of Supergirl is supposed to take over the series time slot, so next Tuesday we'll get the season 6 premiere, I believe, of Supergirl. Yeah, and so yeah, I have time to watch the 5th episode, but yeah, I'll get that doing next week. But let's talk about Haywire, because man, this show is so good, and I like it a lot. But let's talk about some of the interesting things about it, because I think this show, because of all of the controversy with Nadria Tucker, has got me thinking a lot about kind of digging into the subtext of this show, right? And how it deals with things other than, the white rural landscape, right? Because that's essentially what the show is. And I don't want to necessarily, throw it away because of that. Because I think it's important that we don't throw away white stories, more so uphold stories from other races to the same degree, if that makes sense. And I think in terms of the Superman lore, there's plenty of ways to add minorities into the stakes here, and the comics have done it, and it's been done before. So I think there's plenty of ways to do it, and so I look at minority representation a lot in this show. And one of the things that happens is we're introduced to an Asian character whose prominence, we're not necessarily sure of. I'm not sure how instrumental he'll be for the rest of the season, but he's introduced, and he has, some notable story stuff in there. And I was curious about how they would handle him. And, again, it's kind of teetering the line. And that's just sort of how I have seen this whole show so far. It's teetering the line, whereas yes, the only prominent black character is the villain, right? And I think that is important to mention, but the show hasn't done anything to necessarily portray that it's because of his race or anything to do with his race or anything like that. And we're looking at a very conservative boomer town. I think the reason that I'm looking at it this way is because Smallville is very similar to the town where I grew up in. It was a small town that's, very conservative leaning, and so I see the sort of representation that's going on in Smallville that is predominantly white, but that is kind of how it works. These small towns typically don't have a lot of minorities in them. That's just how it works. I mean, look at Vermont. The entire state is a small town, and it's 90-some% white people, and that's just, when you look in more rural areas, that is where you see older, whiter communities. And so I think just for terms of authenticity, I don't see any necessary racial problems. I can see where people might infer that, and I think that there's room for it. I just don't think the show has really crossed that line yet. I think they've walked right up to it. I think they're flirting with it. They're conversing with it, and so that's why I'm constantly trying to pay attention to that, because I don't want that to happen, and I'm hoping that they don't. And I don't think that there's anywhere in the show yet where they've really crossed that line, because again, like I said, I come from a rural town. This is how it is. In terms of authenticity, I think this is pretty accurate. But yeah, so Another great episode. I love Jordan so much, and I love Jonathan too. I think the twins are the best part of this show because it's like, I mean, essentially, Jonathan is just that big brother that you would always want. He's such a good guy, and you can see him grappling with this as Jonathan is essentially, you know, he was the golden child, if that makes any sense. You know, like, obviously parents don't play favorites, but like, he was the one that they didn't have to worry about, right? And so he's kind of pushed to the wayside all the time, and you feel really bad for him, and it makes sense. But also, like, he's a super strong guy, and he recognizes all of this. Like, he knows that he's essentially supposed to be the one that's okay, you know? Like, he needs to watch out for Jordan because he's been going through and is going through a lot, but that doesn't mean that Jonathan isn't going through stuff too. And it's interesting because all of this is going through Jonathan's head, and you can clearly see that. And I think that, and again, I don't have these actors memorized, so I have to, reference, but Jordan Elsass, I think, is doing an incredible job as Jonathan, just being able to portray that through the camera, because this isn't dialogue things, like he's alluded to it in certain dialogue written, but like, that's not the script doing it. That is him himself. That is the direction of specifically in this episode, Michael Narducci, but it's both the direction and just him being a really good actor, being able to portray that without having the writing for it. And so, huge shout out to him for this episode and just in general this season. And I also love, again, Alex Garfin as Jordan. I'll continue to hoist them up as the truly great stuff about this show. But also, there's a really great scene between Clark and Lois here. And I think the family dynamic is just what makes this show so special. And I've echoed that in previous videos, but I think that is what makes this thing truly great, because we have a ton of superhero shows, and I mentioned this in, what was it? I mentioned it previously. I can't remember what it was. It was in this week's podcast over on Game Patrol. Go check that out if you haven't. But I was talking about the superhero genre and how much I love it. I'm very biased towards the superhero genre because I love it so much. But I think, I was talking about it in my Falcon and Winter Soldier review. I knew it was recently. I think the superhero genre is at risk of dying if it doesn't, evolve. And I think this is the way it does it. Stuff like this. And in, continuing to find new subgenres, right? Because I think people lump the superhero genre as like one thing that is very formulaic. For like, I don't necessarily blame them for that, because I think when we got to like late phase 2 MCU around that time, superhero movies started to get very formulaic, and I think that's where we got the check. And then Logan basically proved that there can be different genres of superhero movies. And since then, we've gotten a lot of really good superhero movies because of that, because they have seen the success of Logan, they've seen the success of Deadpool, and other more like riskier ventures into the superhero genre, like Thor Ragnarok as well. And I think that is what's really propelling the future of the superhero genre. And I think this is that in TV form. I think WandaVision also had aspects of it, and we're seeing that again in Falcon and Winter Soldier, but this is, in my opinion, the most shining example of a superhero TV show really just coming into its own and being its own thing in the superhero genre. Because, as I mentioned before, it's like a mix of, the Arrowverse and Smallville, and I think, and I stand by that statement, but I would think boiled down, not comparing it to anything else. I just realized this is the shirt I'm wearing. I thought I was wearing the Green Lantern shirt. It's been a morning, let me tell you. I haven't paid attention. I didn't pay any attention to what I was wearing. I thought it was my Green Lantern shirt, but anyway, off that tangent. But I just realized that looking at the camera. But yeah, anyway, gosh, I just lost my whole train of thought now, and I'm upset. But I think I'm back. I think mostly it's about the stuff you don't talk about in Superman. We have, in most Superman media we've had thus far, which we've had tons, we have the stuff that happened before he became Superman, and the stuff that happened while he was Superman, And while this is still in that technical category of while he's Superman, this is sort of like the post peak Superman, right? Which we haven't gotten really a lot of media or any. I mean, like every once in a while, yes, but not a ton outside of the comics about him building that family with Lois and all of that stuff and being able to juggle this. So this is pretty new territory for something that's been done a lot. And so I think that that's something that's really special about it. And the way that they are focusing on it is very reminiscent of like old CW, where you had a ton of like teen dramas, family dramas, and there's still that there on the CW, but not as much. You know, they're obviously banking a lot into the whole superhero thing, as it's been doing very well for them. And so this is a nice mixture of the two, and I like it a lot. And I think, again, this is further proving that there's more to the superhero genre than just one thing. And so I really like this show. It's one of my favorites to watch, and I'm going to continue to watch it. I'm excited to watch episode 5, and hopefully they come back soon. But let me know what you guys thought down in the comments below. Like this video, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys next time for whatever it is I'm doing. All right? See ya.